So we got some breaking news just as we were coming on the air tonight. President Trump is purporting to have fired a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. Her name is Lisa Cook. She's been a Fed governor since 2022. She's the first black woman to serve on the Fed board in its 111-year history. And in that entire 111-year history, no member of the Fed's board has ever been fired by any president. And that's not because presidents haven't wanted to do it. It's because a president is not legally allowed to fire members of the Fed board just because he feels like it. The Federal Reserve Board is an independent body charged with setting monetary policy for the United States. It was created to be independent precisely so presidents could not monkey around with stuff like interest rates. Trump has been threatening for months to fire the head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, because Trump publicly insists simultaneously that even though the American economy is totally awesome and the hottest it's ever been, somehow also Jerome Powell is responsible for how terrible the economy is, or something. It's been a little hard to follow. In recent days, Trump has turned his ire toward Powell's colleague, Lisa Cook, claiming that his administration has uncovered some kind of evidence that she committed mortgage fraud. Ms. Cook has not been charged with any wrongdoing. She has certainly not been convicted of anything. But tonight, in a letter to Lisa Cook that he posted online, Trump says he's firing her because of the unproven fraud accusations his administration has produced against her. We have no evidence that Trump's accusations are true. But even if President Trump, harbors doubts about her rectitude or whatever, it's not at all clear that he has the legal authority to fire her on that basis. Like I said, no president has ever fired a member of the Fed board before Trump has announced that he intends to do or is proclaiming himself to have done so tonight. In a column tonight, titled in response to this breaking news this evening, Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman writes this: "We are all Lisa Cook." He says, quote, "The message here clearly isn't don't commit fraud," which would be laughable coming from Donald Trump, of all people, nor, despite what some commentators have said, is it all about revenge, although Trump is indeed a remarkably vindictive person. Mainly, Krugman says, quote, "It's about intimidation. If you get in our way, we will ruin your life." Joining us now is Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman, who joins us on very short notice tonight. Mr. Krugman, it's nice to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on, though not a great occasion.
No. How serious is this, especially for those of us who aren't economists, who maybe follow a little bit what's going on in the market, but don't know the ins and outs of monetary policy and what the independence of the Fed really means? How much of an alarm bell should this set off for regular Americans just learning about this tonight?
This is a 5-alarm fire, because it's not just about Lisa Cook. It's clearly, as I said on my Substack, this is about intimidation. This is saying, it's a message not just, he's not just that he claims he's firing Lisa Cook, although he doesn't. We're not clear that he has the right to do that, but it's a message to everybody else on the Fed's board, and basically to government officials of any kind that get in our way. Don't act as an obedient minion of Donald Trump, and we will ruin you. We will destroy you. The Fed is, I think it's important to understand that the Fed, the most important thing they do, the most visible thing, is they set interest rates. They're in charge of trying to keep the economy on an even keel and avoid inflation. But they also do a lot of bank supervision, a lot of regulation. And in many ways, the Board of Governors plays an even more crucial role there than it does in interest rate policy. So this is basically an attempt to undermine, corrupt, intimidate the whole process by which we avoid banking crises, the whole way in which we avoid financial crises. If this stands, we immediately become Venezuela. We become Turkey. We become a place where all of this stuff is just at the whims of the strong man in charge.
You wrote tonight on your Substack, I could go on at length about the ways rules by intimidation will hurt the economy. He said there's a whole economics literature devoted to the costs when an economy is dominated by rent-seeking, when business success depends on political connections rather than producing things people want. Can you explain, obviously there's a political cost, there's a what type of country are we cost here, but there's an economic cost here that may not be immediately obvious, I think, to people who don't understand how this warping of the independence of the Fed might matter in their own lives, in their own economy.
Okay, the trouble with the Fed, the reason that the Fed is independent is that monetary policy is very powerful and very easy to use. It's extremely, if you want to do something like a spending program or even a tax cut, you have to pass legislation. It takes some time. The stuff needs to get put together. If you want to cut interest rates, what happens is that the Federal Open Market Committee calls the open market desk in New York and says, reduce interest rates. And they buy and sell treasury bills on the market, and interest rates come down. So it's basically frictionless. They can instantly move and put that kind of power in a way that's not too much power for any politician to have. Too much power for the president to have. We do not want a situation in which a president who just wants to inflate the economy ahead of an election or just has crackpot economic ideas can just go and muck with the economy and have basically no speed bumps in his way. That's why the Fed is so important. Once upon a time, we had a gold standard, which did limit that, but created all kinds of other problems. And the modern solution to this problem is that we have an independent, technocratic, professional Federal Reserve, which is somewhat insulated from political pressure. And did we just eliminate that tonight? I mean, because if we do that, then this is how countries get 80% inflation, is by having a president who wants what he wants, has no sense of reality. If inflation, if the Fed behaves irresponsibly and inflation kicks off, that what Trump will do is claim that the data are fake, that it's all fake news and everything is great. So in general, no president should have the power to just arbitrarily control what the Fed does, and least of all, this president. So this is the road to things going completely wild, not 5 years down the pike, but months from now.
Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman, I know we called you and asked you to be here tonight on really short notice. It makes me all the more grateful that you could be here. Thank you.
Thank you.